All right. Hi, everyone. I am Brittany, the owner of the Cosmic Lunar Soul. Welcome to my channel. If you're new, welcome back to all of my subscribers. Today, we are doing another tarot discussion or talk tarot with us. And of course, I have with me the lovely Priscilla.
Hi, so I'm Priscilla. I'm the owner of A Life Full of Simplicity, and I'm really excited because today we're doing the 22 Faves tag. Now, I'm not sure who started the tag. I couldn't I couldn't figure it out. So if you know, let us know in the comments below. If you're watching the replay or if you're on live with us now, let us know in the live chat, because I couldn't figure it out. I found the tag through the Waves of Your Soul, and she did it from someone else who rebooted it.
Yeah.
But I couldn't find like who created the tag, so I don't know. But thank you to whoever created it. It's super fun. So pretty much the tag is us going through our favorite major arcana cards from different decks, and just talking about why they're our favorite. So yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we could just go ahead and get started. We're going to go from the Fool through the world and just pull out our cards and just chit chat about them. So what was your Fool card that you pulled out?
So I chose the Fool from the Disney Villains. This is
That's a
by
good one.
Irva Siegel, Ellie Goldwine, and published by Inside Edition. So this is
Mm-hmm.
Kronk. If you know The Emperor's New Groove, then you know who this character is. He is literally the embodiment of the Fool, in my opinion. I thought this was really well done for a Fool card. We don't have like the traditional dog in the photo. Instead, we have his little devil and his little angel. So these are supposed to be like his guides, in the sense that are you going to listen to the devil and go forward and take risks and go off that cliff because he's not even paying attention, or are you going to listen to the angel and think things through a bit better before going off the cliff or going on a new adventure, because he's clearly going on some kind of adventure, but he's also very naive and gets
Yes.
distracted very easily. So I love this Fool card. I think it was really well done, really funny.
That's a good one. And I went with actually from the Wild Unknown. I went with this one. I love the concept of like the baby bird kind of taking its first steps out of the nest and going for its first flight, and just understanding the concept of baby birds. A lot of times they don't do well their first few times. So it seems
Yeah.
very like the perfect Fool card, even though there's not a lot of traditional imagery in this at all. But I still love it. And then it even has these like really nice warm tones. So it is sort of reminiscent of that like nice yellow sky you see in the Fool card. So there's still a little reference to that.
Very true. Now for my magician pick, I went with the Light Seers. This is by Chris Ann, published by Hay House. So this is the
Oh, I love
magician
that.
card in the Light Seers. Now, you don't see the traditional physical embodiment of the miners in this particular card, though there are the elements that are stated in the strands of energy that are here. Hey, Steph.
Hi, Steph.
And yeah, I love it because we get that sense of creation. So for me, the
Mm-hmm.
magician is really about creation. It's about resources, in the sense that you have the resources that are needed to create what it is you want to create your path, create your goals, create whatever, wherever you're going, you have the power
Mm-hmm.
to create it. But I also love that manifestation energy, because the magician also embodies manifestation,
Mm-hmm.
and you're manifesting using your own energy and your own resources. So I do love this magician in that sense.
I actually really like that one too. Light Seers is one of those like will they won't they decks for me where I love it, but I don't know why I won't buy it for myself. So that's actually another magician card I do like.
Mm.
But I went with the Lord of the Rings magician actually. This is Saruman. There's very little similarities between this and the original imagery in oh god, imagery. There we go. Words today.
You were
Um,
trying to say illustration and imagery together.
oh yes, and I couldn't stop saying that. But I like this because you can still see he has that, as above, so below kind of stance, but his hands are planted on his staff, so it still seems like there is still that element of manifestation and magic. And if you're familiar with Lord of the Rings lore at all, you know that he is a wizard, so he has the ability to create this magic and all of that.
Mm.
I mean, I kind of like that it's Saruman instead of Gandalf because, well, in this deck, Gandalf is the hermit, which makes more sense. But
Mm.
he created a lot of chaos. So I just kind of really think that's an interesting take on the magician. It's a lot
That's true.
more dark than you would initially think of the magician.
That's true, but I like that also.
I do
Because it
too,
it can go either way, right? When it comes to where you're going with magic in that sense.
for sure.
So next we have the High Priestess. So I chose the High Priestess from the Cosmic Slumber Tarot. This is
Mm,
by Tilly Walden and published by Liminal 11. I love this deck so much. Um,
mm,
and this is the High Priestess that I chose. So it does show a lot of the similar imagery to the original High Priestess. You have the moon, you have the black and white, what are supposed to be columns, but in this case, they're curtains.
Tartness,
You
yeah.
still have, yeah, you still have that duality. You have the pomegranates in the background and all that things. You have the crown. Instead of a Torah, she's holding a book. So you still have that knowledge
Mm-hmm.
aspect, bringing in
Mm-hmm.
wisdom. The thing I love the most about this particular high priestess is the fact that she has a door that she's opening within herself, and there's a little person inside the door, if you can see it.
Oh
And
yeah.
I love that because for me, when it comes to the high priestess, I like to interpret it as intuition, inner knowing, inner wisdom, and things like that. So you really get that gist with that little door and with
Mm-hmm.
the little person inside, because that's literally you inside yourself telling you, like your inner voice telling you where you need to go, and you need to listen to that. You need to trust them. So
Oh, that's really cool.
I really love that.
For me, I couldn't decide between two, so I have two. I have again from the Wild Unknown. I have this High
I love that
Priestess.
high priestess.
It's this is I would say this is probably number one, followed very closely by the High Priestess in the Everyday Witch Tarot. I really like this because I can see a lot more of my like external self in this, and then this one I feel I see more of my internal self. And I say that because I correlate in a lot of readings the high priestess to me, at least in my like witchy journey and spiritual journey and stuff like that. So anytime I see these cards pop up, they're reminiscent of me. So like for the Wild Unknown, I really just like how there's again very little just traditional imagery in the Wild Unknown. So this I just like the concept that, I mean, we do still have like the moon and stuff like that, but I like the concept of the only thing being in color here, even though tigers are usually really vibrant and orange and has that just really gorgeous coloring. The only thing in color here is that like crystal ball. So it's like saying, the world is kind of black and white and sometimes things are like that. But when you tap into the spirituality of things, it really just opens up a world of color. Kind of reminds me of like the Wizard of Oz when Dorothy goes to Oz.
Yeah.
And for this one, I so apparently I like a lot of these cards that have like crystal balls in them. I'm noticing a trend here. But this one takes the columns to a different perspective. I really like how they're basically just pillar taper candles. And of course, she's doing tarot in here. So again, I see a lot of myself in this card. So a lot of this is more personal to me than, actually being about the card itself. And then, of
Yeah.
course, all the books in the background seems very studious about learning and just taking in these resources from not only like internally doing like tarot and scrying and whatever, but also externally from the books.
Yeah, I like that too. I do like high priestess cards when they show like the high priestess doing tarot. I think that's very interesting
Hmm.
because you still have that aspect of looking within because you're doing tarot for yourself, so you're
Hmm.
still looking within with that divination. I like also that with the crystal ball as well because
Hmm.
it's really you're seeing yourself within the globe, right?
Yeah,
So I still like that as well. So the Empress card. Okay, so this one was hard, mainly because a lot of the Empress cards that I have in decks that I have, she's always pregnant.
pregnant. Hmm.
And I personally don't really relate to that aspect. Like, I understand it brings in the fertility aspect and whatnot. And I do relate to the fertility aspect on another level of more in terms of creation. So,
Yes.
fertility being this planting the seed of an idea to create, which is what I usually associate with the Empress card and
Yeah.
nurturing that idea. So, it was really hard for me to find an Empress card that did not have a woman that was pregnant.
Yep.
So I went with the Empress from the Next World Tarot. This is by Christy C. Rode. It's published by Silver Sprocket. Now there is a bit of nudity in this, so I will forewarn you. There's nudity in this card.
It's okay.
So
I'm not monetized, so I have nothing to lose.
no, that's fine. But other people, if they watch with their
Yes.
kids or something, just so you know, there's boobies in
Warning.
this card. Okay, so this is the card I went with. I love this. I find this Empress very empowering, in my opinion. She's
Mhm.
sitting there. She's sitting on a mountain of trash. I will tell you that this deck is very political. So there's
Oh,
that.
that deck. Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
this
it's
is a
coming
deck
back to
that's
me
very
now.
political. So yeah, mountains of trash. I think it's more in the sense of like this card is more in the sense of climate change. But she's still holding some plants and things like that. So there is that aspect of fertility and growth in the
Mhm.
sense of like the plants that you see around her and things like that. But I also love the torch that she's holding. For me, that signifies sparking ideas,
Mhm.
putting a flame to creation and whatnot. So I do like that aspect as well. We do have some like water aspect, which I don't know, I don't really technically associate with the Empress usually, because in the traditional Empress, is there any water in the traditional Empress? I don't think so. Just land, right? Just Earth.
I I think there might be. I think, is there a river behind her? I don't know. Keep
I
talking. I'll
don't
look it up.
I don't know. I can't remember. But yeah, I find her very empowering. She knows what she wants, which is something I really love with the Empress, knowing what you want, knowing how to create it, nurture that, and move with it. So
Mhm.
yes, love this very
I
much.
so I did look it up. There is like a little river in the
Oh,
background. So
okay.
there
So there's
is
a little river in the back of this as well.
yeah, and there
On
is
her back
in
here.
mine, and I figured that must mean there's a river because I chose two again because they're like two of the three decks that I have that don't have a pregnant empress, and I really
Ooh.
like it. So this one is actually the empress from the Philly Tarot, and
Mm.
this is very much a Rider Waite clone. In this deck, the empress is depicted as Betsy Ross, and you can see her stitching up the American flag. So, as someone who's not very patriotic, but someone who's very nostalgic for Philadelphia, I really love this because this is one of the major historical aspects of our city. But I like that she's stitching up a flag because just like what you were saying, it's like stitching up the foundation or like, sewing the foundations of something that can be something way greater down the line.
Yeah.
And so this card has a lot of the traditional imagery, but there's some sort of like modern takes on it as well. So you can still see the river in the background. Um, I don't know if this is an actual thing or just something to place imagery on, but then she's kind of sitting on what looks like a lounge chair just kind of in the middle of the forest. So I
Yeah.
really just like this. It's very much a traditional Rider-Waite clone and very familiar, but she's also not pregnant, so I love that.
Yeah, that's great.
And oh, I was gonna say, and then the second one I chose was actually this card from the Untamed Mystery Tarot. And I chose this because it's a peacock. And what's funny is this is a male peacock, because male peacock are the like fancy pretty guys. So I just kind of thought that was a little hilarious, but it still does have a little bit of the reminiscence of traditional imagery with that like river flowing through the middle and the shapes of these little doodads here. I don't know what they are, but I just kind of thought that was an interesting take on the Empress, especially because this deck is very much all animals and no people.
Yeah, I was gonna say in regards to your other Empress card, the shield that you see with it's actually I believe it's a shield of Venus.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe it's a shield of Venus.
Okay.
Because
I guess
Venus is associated with that card, and I think it's supposed to be a shield that represents love and beauty.
that would make sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Alrighty. What do you have for the Emperor?
Okay, this was another hard one because usually I like to pair the Empress and Emperor together, but I don't like the Emperor from the Next World Tarot. So
I love that you said that.
I went with the Zombie Tarot, which is by Paul Kippel, and it's published by Quirk Books. And this this deck is really funny, I have to say. If you want a Halloween deck, this deck is hilarious. Also very 60s. So this literally embodies the Emperor for me. The Emperor is all about leadership, about taking charge, about authority, being, in control of situations, of everything. So this guy is definitely in control. He has all the weapons to overcome the zombies. He has his kid behind him, so he's protecting, other people, which I find also embodies the Emperor with protection. And then you see like zombies trying to come in the background, even though the door is like bolted.
Yeah.
That's why I love this card. I love this card very much. I love this deck. It's great. It's so funny.
I like that you said that you like to pair the Emperor and Empress, because I had a hard time with this. I was going to choose the Emperor card from the Lord of the Rings Tarot, but because I didn't choose the Empress card, I was like, so I ended up choosing the Emperor and Empress in the Philly Tarot. And so the Emperor here is actually, oh my gosh, I almost said Benjamin Button, Benjamin Franklin. And I love him as the Emperor because he's like a soft Emperor. It's not like a lot of decks will depict the Emperor as being a like very stern looking, very rigid, which can be an Emperor. But I like the idea of, even though he kind of has like a really like sourpuss face, he's still, when I think of Benjamin Franklin, I think of like more so just a man of science and invention, and still part of the father of our country as well. Still a very important aspect to the foundation of our country. So it seems more of like a softer personality, someone who is more about learning and nurturing that in more of the like thoughtful side of things, versus the Empress, who is more like hands-on and like actually weaving things together. It's like literally the two faces of the same coin. So that's why I really like this Emperor. And obviously, as I mentioned before, the Philly Tarot is very much a clone of Rider-Waite.
Yeah, I would also say that he's definitely a leader, especially in terms of like inventing and things like that. He definitely has that leadership quality.
For sure.
Okay, so for the Hierophant, I went with the Everyday Witch Hierophant by Deborah.
Yes. we have a winner here.
by Deborah Blake and Elizabeth Alba. This is published by Llewellyn. So yes, I went with the Hierophant
I'll hold mine
mainly
up again.
because, mainly because for me, the traditional RWS, it just ain't it. It's not it for me.
It's
Um,
very, I
I
was trying to see if I
prefer,
have my original one, but it's
yeah,
very churchy.
very churchy, yes. And I understand why in terms of the RWS. I totally
Yes.
understand the symbolism and the tradition and whatnot. But
Hmm.
for me, when I look to the Hierophant, I look to see a mentor. I look to see someone who's providing knowledge for someone's spiritual path.
Hmm.
And this is the card that gave that to me. So you see the woman in the front. She's literally teaching two other students in front of her
Hmm.
meditation, and that to me is that mentor quality. You have that knowledge quality. You're learning something in the process that will literally advance you on your spiritual journey. I think
Hmm.
meditation is pretty important sometimes, depending on what kind of path you're on. So this definitely gives me that mentor student knowledge kind of um, information when I look at it.
Totally, totally agree with you. The mentorship of the Hierophant is what really draws me to that card.
Yeah.
It is one of my favorite cards, but I'm on board with you that like imagery wise, Rider Waite is not where it's at all. So obviously, I chose the same card, but I did have another runner up that depicted something similar. This is
Mm.
from the Black Femme Tarot, and
Oh,
it I really like this because it kind of gives me like boss babe energy, where you have this woman who's teaching her girls something. But I always like to, when there are books displayed, apparently I'm also noticing that trend about myself now. So it's like, she's teaching them but also giving them the tools to teach themselves. And I really
yeah.
like that concept in the Hierophant, because it's not about relying on people to do whatever. It's about getting the tools you need from those people so you can do it yourself.
Yeah,
So I
100%.
really, really enjoy this concept of it.
Yeah, me too. Definitely you get the basics, but then you should do your own research and progress with your own path in terms of your knowledge and whatnot.
And Stephanie says the Hierophant card looks really cool.
It does. It does indeed. Okay, so the lovers. Okay, so I again went with a card that's not traditional. So when we think of the lovers, the traditional is you have, feminine, masculine, you have the tree of life, you have the tree of knowledge, you have the angel, which I believe is Raphael in the traditional. And you have that aspect of choice in terms of eating the fruit from the tree of knowledge. That's what the traditional imagery and symbolism is supposed to be. It's supposed to be Adam
Yes.
and Eve garden. And then you have like Raphael, which is supposed to be, I guess, some higher power or like higher advice on where you're supposed to go with that.
Mhm.
So I went a completely different route in terms of that. So I chose the Lover's card from the White Newman Tarot. This is by Alba BG and published by Liminal 11. Again, forewarning, there is nudity in this card. So this card actually depicts two women. So there's two females in this
Mhm.
card. You still get that duality aspect, in my opinion, with the symbols that are above the head. So for me,
Mhm.
the symbols, since one is yellow, the other one's blue, it signifies more of a sun moon aspect.
Oh,
And
I like
that to
that.
me, yeah, and that to me depicts the feminine masculine. So the sun being masculine, the moon being feminine. So we have that duality in there because that's what's in the Lover's card in the original.
Mhm.
And I still get the choice. I still get the aspect of choice in the card with the snakes. So the snakes are actually slithering in sort of two different directions. We have one going this way and one
Mhm.
going that way. And for me, this signifies choice of two different paths and which path you want to go down. Now, this could be in the sense of love relationships if you choose to think about the lovers as in terms of relationship, but it could also be in terms of any like a choice that needs to be made in any terms or in any sense. So
Mhm.
that's one of the reasons why I love this card, because it's not traditional, but it still has aspects that you can interpret as traditional, in my opinion.
Yeah. I
And
had
I
a
love
hard
the
time.
diversity. I just wanted to say
Oh,
I love the
yeah, for
diversity.
sure. I like that, illustrators and authors are now considering the way relationships can look from different perspectives.
Yeah.
The Lovers is probably one of my least favorite major arcana, so I had a really hard time with this. But I ended up going with the Lovers from the Lord of the Rings Tarot.
Oh,
The reason I went with this is, again, if you're familiar with Lord of the Rings lore, is the relationship between Legolas and Gimli being
yeah.
um, very standoffish and then transitioning into more or less like this best friend sort of thing. But in reality, when you look at it, and really any elf and dwarf, if you look at it, like the elves and the dwarves don't get along, and you can see the dwarves are going to their domain, the elves are going to theirs, and they're standing in the center, and they have this choice of which direction they want to go. But regardless, it could impact their unionship. So I really like this card because it's very nuanced. There's very little traditional imagery in any of the Lord of the Rings deck here, but I just think that, especially if you understand the characters, it can be a very, very deep card.
Yeah, I actually really love that. I really love that a
Yeah.
lot, actually. Okay, the Chariot. So I chose a funny one. I needed to choose a funny one. So I chose another card from the Disney villains. This is by Minerva
Oh,
Siegel and and Ellie Goldwine. I'm pretty sure it's Ellie Goldwine. Let me see. Make sure I'm actually saying her name right. Yes, Goldwine. Perfect.
you're already
And it's
doing better
published
than
by
me. I don't know
Inside
anybody.
Editions. Hey, I try to make it my business to know everyone. And yes, non-traditional cards are always more meaningful in my opinion too.
They are.
Yeah, so I chose the Chariot from there, and because it's Cruella de Vil
Oh, I love
driving
this.
her car. And if you've seen the animated film, you know that the scene is epic. She's actually out of her mind, literally out
Oh,
of her mind when
fully.
she's driving that car and like crashing into that. It's crazy, but I love it so much. And when I saw this, I laughed so hard because I was like, this is so perfect as a chariot. You get a
Yeah.
lot of movement with this card, which is what I associate with the chariot. I also associate it as an action oriented card where
Hmm.
you need to get from point A to B because you need to move towards something.
Hmm.
So I definitely get that from this particular card, and it just
I
gives you a
love
good
that.
laugh in the meantime as well as interpreting it.
I think
It's so
that's a
funny.
really, really good chariot card because it's also, it
Yeah.
touches on the idea of like, okay, if you do win, at what cost are you winning? You know, you're
Yeah,
like, what is
definitely.
this victory costing you?
True.
So I chose two again. I'm really bad at this apparently. Mine should be called like
That's
44
okay.
faces.
That's okay.
So again, the Billy Tarot makes an appearance. I went with the chariot.
Yeah, the
I
bus.
think I explained this in my flip through,
Yeah.
but if you're not from Philly, you will not get the nuance of this card. So this is the Septibus. This is our public transportation. And there is basically a running joke or just understanding that septibuses will go anywhere and everywhere they want at all costs. So it's still kind of the same thing as the Corilla. Like, all right, you're getting to where you need to go, maybe, but at what cost?
Yeah.
So septibuses have been known to run into storefronts. This is a regular occurrence. And I even had a friend who broke her foot because the bus ran over her.
Oh
And she was
my.
fine, so we can laugh about it. But this is the true embodiment of the upright and reverse chariot to me. And I just, when I saw it, I fell out. It was just so funny. And then I chose the Game of Thrones chariot because it's
Mm.
actually a dragon. And you can see, like,
Oh, that's
obviously the
good.
dragon is, doing whatever, but the people are cheering for it in the front. So I like that. I like this one because it's not a vehicle. So it's hard to find a chariot that's not some sort of car, vehicle, or something, and still get the same chariot vibe.
That's
But
true.
the dragons are a mode of transportation in Game of Thrones, so it is still very similar and still has that same feel to it.
Yeah,
And
that's
it
very true.
it still has that, winning at all costs, what are you sacrificing to do it kind of aspect, because the dragons were a little, you know, they were fine when their owners were around, but they also kind of ate people. So
True.
they shouldn't have.
True. Also, Steph says the more decks you show off, the better. So
She's not wrong.
exactly. She's definitely not. So yes. Okay, now we get into strength. So again, for the strength card, I actually went into I chose a card that's not traditional. I went with this card. So this is the
Oh,
from the Tarot of Curious Creatures by Chris Ann. This is published by Hay House. This is supposed to be a sheep or a lamb
okay.
in the particular card. And I went with this because I feel like, yes, I love the traditional with the lion, the woman, but I feel like you don't need to have inner strength. You don't need to be a lion to have inner strength. You can have inner strength in any form. And I
Hmm.
feel like a lamb or a sheep is they're very timid, they're like soft and cuddly, and you wouldn't like consider them to, maybe you consider them more weak than have
Yeah.
strength
You
and things
consider
like
them
that.
prey.
So
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, because they're considered prey. But I like this because you get in touch more with your inner strength, meaning that anyone could have strength. So that's why
Yeah.
I love this particular card, because anyone could have strength. You just have to believe in yourself
Yeah.
that you have that strength. So I
I
chose
like
this one.
that.
Yeah.
It's funny. I think we're choosing cards for a lot of the same reasons. I chose two again. I'm so sorry. All right.
You don't need to be sorry. It's okay.
I chose the Everyday Witch, and then I
Oh yeah.
chose the Lord of the Rings. So
Mm.
for Everyday Witch, I like because it is almost very traditional, except with the difference that she is walking side by side with this lion. And I felt
Yeah.
like that was in a very important nuance in this card, because it's not saying like, oh, you have to like, pry the lion's mouth to be like, to show that you're tapping into the strength of the lion, where there's a lot of strength to be said for being able to walk side by side with something that you think is more powerful than you, or more dangerous,
Yes.
something like that. And then you can also see the storm in the background, but then like the sun on the other side. So it's just showing that there's strength in chaos. Sometimes there's strength even when
Mhm.
you feel like there are storms brewing. That you can find strength in a lot of different places, and it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be like overpowering something. It could just be walking through life, if that's what is going on with you right
Yeah.
now.
I just wanted to say with that card, because I love that card also. I love this deck very much.
Mhm.
There's strength in being equal rather than dominating others.
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
definitely love that in that sense. Like you can be equal to someone else and still have strength, and they have strength, and that's great. You don't need to
Hmm.
dominate them to have strength.
Exactly. And I
So
think that a lot of strength cards do depict that.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
especially when the woman is trying to like open the
yeah,
the
when
the
there's
mouth
like,
of the
yeah,
lion and things like that. You're trying to dominate someone lesser, someone who has more power than you, for you to become the one who has more power or whatnot.
exactly.
Yeah,
So this one is similar to your lamb, actually, where it's Frodo basically volunteering
Frodo.
to take the One
Yeah,
Ring. And that is a type of strength that, similar to like you were saying with the card that you chose, um, there's a lot of inner strength that you may not expect when you first look at them, especially like the hobbits in Lord of the Rings lore
yeah,
again.
definitely.
They're small, generally unassuming, considered just like ultimately friendly folk that don't really get involved with much dangerous activity.
Yeah,
So the amount of strength that it took to volunteer to do this was insurmountable. It's just priceless, really. And I like that we kind of chose very similar cards, even down to the way the figures are aligned.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's really cool.
They're just standing there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually really like that card, and it's a great depiction of strength because, like, if I've never read the books, but I have watched all the movies of Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, I've watched everything. So, yeah, I really do like very much the depiction that Frodo is strength because it did take a lot
Uh-huh.
of strength
A lot.
to have to go all the way to that damn eye that I don't
Mordor,
remember. Yeah,
yeah.
Mordor to put the ring in. And even his friend, oh my God, what's his friend's name?
Sam?
Yes, Sam bringing him up to the top.
Yes,
Yeah, that's also strength as well. So yes, and
totally agree.
yes, Steph, practice. That's that's the best way to get great. It's all
Yep.
about practice.
Practice and talking about it nonstop.
Yeah, exactly.
What's your hermit?
Okay, so my hermit is The Wild Unknown by Kim Krans, published by Harper One. And I love this hermit so much. And I chose a different hermit too. Yes, I chose another hermit as well.
Who did I? Oh gosh, I love
Which
this.
one was it? Oh, I didn't take it out, but I also was debating like between the hermit from this card and the hermit this deck and the hermit from what's it called? The Orange Animal Tarot because they're both turtles. They're both
Mhm.
turtles, and I love turtles. And they both have lanterns in them. But I went with
Mhm.
this one ultimately because I love this depiction so much, mainly because the turtle here is actually retreated into his shell. You can see him a
Mhm.
bit, but he's actually retreated into his shell,
Yeah.
which to me is definitely the embodiment of the hermit when it comes to reflection and taking time to be alone, to reflect on things, to reflect on situations, issues, whatever you're going through, to reflect on it.
Mhm.
And you still have that aspect of like the light and that there's a light at the end of the tunnel kind of meaning, which I
Mhm.
associate also with the hermit after reflection. There's always a light for you to bring
Yeah.
back and whatnot. And that's the only thing that has color in it, which I
Yeah.
love.
I love that
Yeah, I
too.
love it. So, yeah, it's all black and white except for that, and I love that the flame is what you're going towards. So
Mhm.
the end game is to go towards the light and to go towards the flame with,
Mhm.
what's going to come after pretty much with, I guess, the wheel and stuff like that.
I chose it for more or less similar reasons.
Yeah.
I like that the turtle is, within its own shell. I didn't see it so much as retreat, more so as just
Mhm.
like a period of introspection, and then being able to go through that process and then come out with whatever ideas or answers or whatever, which is what I feel like the flame or the lantern is representing. But I
Mhm.
really like that this is a turtle because of very nerdy reasons. There's a scene in the original Avatar where he consults with a giant turtle that is like an island, and it gives him insight and like, and it's very nerdy of me, but it gives him insight. And there's a point where like there's a big flash of light, and this seems so reminiscent of that scene, and I really love it. I think it's this is hands down one of my favorite hermits.
I feel like I've seen a card that depicts exactly that. It's a turtle with like a something like a world on his back, but I don't remember which deck that was.
Um,
I've seen a card
it
like that before. I know
does
it's in a deck,
seem
but I don't.
familiar. I can't think of it though.
I'm gonna have to look it up because I don't know. Okay, so the wheel or the wheel of fortune, depending on which one you want to call it. So I went with the Green Witch, which is by
Oh,
Anne Mora, and it is who's the artist on this? Let me just check who the artist is. Does it say who the artist is?
I guess I could have been looking at my books to see who the illustrators and stuff were. Been bad at that.
Maybe I'll look at the box. Oh, Kiri Ostengard Leonard is the
Oh, okay.
artist. And this is published by Llewellyn.
Hmm.
So I went with that. which looks like this. It's a seasonal one, so you have all the
Oh, the Sabbats.
yeah, you have all the
Mm-hmm.
wheel of the year, because that's what they call it. They call it the wheel of the year.
Oh,
And
interesting.
I went with this particular card mainly because the way I see the wheel is about cycles, so going through
Mm-hmm.
cycles. And this literally depicts seasonal cycles, so going
Yeah.
through like different seasons. So that's really why I chose this particular wheel, because I definitely love that aspect of going through different cycles, and whether that be inner cycles, external cycles,
Mm-hmm.
going through seasonal cycles, going through, whatever the cycle may be. That's why I chose this. And I love
I
the
like
fact that
that.
it has the Sabbats on it.
Yeah, that is really cool. I mm, again bad at this game. I chose two. I'll start with this one. This is the One Ring from Lord of the Rings, and this is the
Mm.
Wheel of Fortune, which I really like because this depicts, like, or to me, it kind of gives the aspect of not everything good is bad and not everything bad is good, because a lot of times, especially with the One Ring, it seems like this thing that gives you a lot of power, but a lot of times it's at a specific cost and ends up usually hurting the wearer or the people around them. And then vice versa, is this very powerful ring, but once it was tossed into the fires of Mordor, it was able to destroy an entire being. So I think that it has like this sense of like power, but it can go both ways, which I really like that in terms of the concept of, fortune, especially in tarot readings, because I think a lot of times when people see the Wheel of Fortune pop up, they're like, oh, good news. But maybe it's not, maybe it's only surface level good, or, maybe it's not all bad, that kind of thing. And then the other one I chose was the Wild Unknown. I apparently like this deck a lot. This is so the Wild Unknown was the second tarot deck I ever got. So it really made me think a little outside of the Rider Waite Smith box. What
Yeah.
I like about this is how the concept of fortune is a weave. And it's similar to the previous card, how, you know, things might be perceived as fortunate from one perspective, but maybe not from another. And everything is interconnected. So
Yeah.
even while things may not feel fortunate now, it's only a matter before you get to the next strand and you come across something that seems fortunate to you. So that's one of the things I really like. And then a lot of the symbolism with the owl and the moon, and then it almost looks like a reverse sun. So when it's in reverse, it seems like, okay, in reverse it's usually misfortune, but not everything's bad. There's still that sun that's going to come out, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I like how in upright it's very dark at the top, and then reversed it's the opposite. So it's almost always conflicting with the natural order of how people think of the Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah. I do love that wheel card from the Wild Unknown, the fact that
Yeah.
everything is intertwined, and destiny and fate are always going to be intertwined with each other.
Hmm.
It makes it feel like, destiny is kind of set or will change,
Hmm.
like depending on which path you go on. It kind
Yeah.
of gives me the vibes, like, I don't know if you've ever read or watched the show The Discovery of Witches. It gives me that vibe, the weaving
Mm,
vibe from that particular show and book series.
I haven't, but I feel like I've heard about it.
It's a really good show. I actually really enjoyed the show very much, actually. So I found the card that I was talking about, where
Oh,
there was a turtle and there was like things growing on his back. So it's
yeah.
from the Tarot of the Divine, and it's the World card.
Oh, okay. I knew, and I see the tarot. People use that deck a
It's
lot of
very
times.
popular. I have
Yeah,
it. I have
so
that deck.
I was like, I knew it seemed familiar, but there was no way I could like place it in my
Yeah.
memory.
And that deck is always on sale. You could always find it at a very affordable for price,
It's
I
one of
have
those
to say.
decks where I like when watching people use it, but I don't think I'd own it.
Yeah. The creator has a more in-depth book coming out, where they go more in depth on each of the stories, I think.
Oh, cool.
It's coming out in December. Maybe I'll get it eventually. I'd love to connect more with that deck because I
Yeah, I think
love
that'd
the
be
imagery.
awesome. Right.
Okay, justice. Um, yeah, I didn't know where to go with this deck, but I took the card from the Orion's Animal Tarot. This is by Ambi Sun, and it is published by Rockpool Publishing. And ignore the number. This is in the 8th position, but whatever. Justice is justice to me.
Yeah.
So I chose it because it's an owl. Now it
Mhm.
still has the traditional symbolism in terms of the sword and in terms of the scales. The scales are very important in any justice card. I love when there's scales, mainly
Mhm.
because of that balance aspect. I typically read the justice as balance. So I definitely love this in particular. I would also say that in regards to the owl, I love this because justice, I feel like you need to have some sort of wisdom when it comes to what you're doing, whether it be like actually using this card as a justice card, like in terms of law and in terms of knowing the difference between right or wrong and things
Mhm.
like that. So there's definitely that knowledge aspect in that regard. Also, happy belated birthday,
Happy
Steph.
belated birthday. Sorry, my cat decided to make a forced
That's
appearance.
okay. I love your cat, so it's all
Aw.
good. So, yes, that's really why I chose that because it has that wisdom, it has that balance, literally balance, in regards to the scales being actually balanced. Though I prefer
Mhm.
a lot of the time when the scales are a little bit out of balance, because
Hmm.
then you can really see that aspect of needing to bring that balance back in regards to what it is you're doing, whether it be your choices or
Yeah.
where you're headed and things like that. So I do like that as well, but in this case, they are equal. So yes.
I like that. I couldn't decide, and just for the sake of time, I'll hold them all up. And a yes, I said all because I'm like that apparently. So I chose
Oh,
three.
three.
Yes. So I chose The Wild Unknown in the middle, and then I chose Game of Thrones, and then Everyday Witch. What I like, and I'll talk about this one separately because it's the most different. I
Mm-hmm.
like that this card has no color at all, and it is very much like the yin yang kind of thing. So this is like showing the scales in the fox, or the cats. I guess they're cats.
They're cats, I think.
Um,
Yeah.
so showing the balance between the two cats, but
Mm-hmm.
then that is also depicted here in the Everyday Witch is the
Mm-hmm.
black and white cat sitting on the scale equally, you know, in balance and then also facing off with each other, although these ones are in much more harmony here.
Yeah.
So I just like that it depicts the element of justice being, even though oftentimes it's not in reality, but there's this concept of black and white, but also opposing forces. And then what I like about these two, especially this one actually, is the concept of there's like, so she has on this blindfold, and
Yeah.
then we see that the scales are balanced, but there's this concept of like, when I think of justice, I think like justice is blind, that kind of mentality. But
Yeah.
you can see she's peeking out from under the
Blindfold.
blindfold, so it's almost like she is making sure to tip the scales to make them balanced instead of them actually being balanced. So
Yeah.
then it really makes you think like, okay, so what would things have been normally? There's
Yeah.
just a
So
lot
there's
going on in that.
there's some bias there.
Exactly, there's some
Yeah.
bias to make it seem like things are equal,
Mm-hmm.
makes it seem like things are balanced.
Yeah.
And then this last one is Ned Stark sitting on the Iron Throne. And we all know, well, mostly everybody who watched Game of Thrones or read the books knows
Yeah.
how that went, because his character was the epitome of true justice, and he was very much black and white, which fits in with the other cards that I really like. But the problem is that there was nothing balanced in that. So this is the concept. This is on the side of like justice at what cost, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I really liked all three. They all kind of had very similar. It's like if we could merge all 3 cards into one, it would be like a mega justice card.
Yeah. The Wild Unknown one in the pocket edition, there's
It's
color
colored.
now, but only in the background.
Mm-hmm.
So only behind the cats, so the cats are still black and white. And they
Yeah.
added a world. She added a world in between the cat's tails, which I think was really cool. So yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like that so much. I saw that,
No?
and yeah, I was just, I don't know. I like that, you know, it is just a stark black and white card, just start to finish. And I'm not sure how I felt about the world concept, but it didn't bother me so much, I guess, because it's just, as long as, I don't know, it was not as much my favorite as the original.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see.
I'm gonna see if I can look up the new one.
Here, I have it.
Oh, you do? Awesome. Oh yeah, I forgot you have the pocket edition.
Yeah. In the background.
Oh yeah.
And then the worlds in between them.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't have that same like effect to me, but I guess because I also don't use it enough, I don't know.
Yeah. The point actually for the thing was equality, because the colors in here are actually the LGBT rainbow flag, and then you have the trans flag on top.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it was supposed to represent, was equality.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured.
That justice.
Which isn't a bad thing. It's just
I pre-ordered the pocket edition of her Oracle deck, so I'm excited to get that.
Of the original Oracle deck?
This one, the Spirit Animal.
Okay.
There's a pocket edition coming, so I pre-ordered.
Oh, nice.
Okay, Hangman. Yeah. So I chose the Hangman from the Tarot of Mystical Moments by Katrine Wells Stein. This is published by US Games. So this is the card here.
Oh, I remember that. Okay.
Yes. And I love this card because you have that traditional Hangman feel where she's upside down, but then you have it literally unzipping from the top to show another world behind what's going on here. The
like
greenery and leaves and things like that.
Yeah.
You have literally an opening up. And to me, that's like the perfect embodiment of perspective and seeing a different perspective, which is how I interpret the Hangman. It's all about perspectives and changing your perspective. And literally this to me is literally you're going into a different perspective. So you're literally unzipping what you're seeing right now to be able to see a different point of view, which is how I interpret this particular card. There's also birds everywhere, which is pretty cool, but
yeah, I like that. I love the concept of cards for the Hangman that show like some form of different perspective in whatever artistry that they choose to do it. Which is interesting because I did not pick a card that really did that. My point that I really liked from this one, I chose the Hangman from the Ethereal Visions Tarot.
Oh yes, that deck.
This is the card where I like that it's depicting the fact that he's in full control over the fact that he is upside down. So like you can see here that he has his hand on the rope and could let himself down at any time. But so this really touches on the side of the Hangman that talks about the self-sacrifice and putting yourself in situations in order to gain new perspectives, or to just end up in new perspectives and sacrifice, whatever, however you want to look at that. But I just like that. And then if you look at it, it's hard to tell. Let me see if I can get close. He does not look concerned, and he's watching. He has his eyes on his feet, and it's like, he's aware of everything that's going on around. And there's just this element of calm that I think that sometimes the Hangman doesn't always depict.
True.
So I really, really enjoy that. And then upright, it seems so, or reverse. It seems so relaxed that it almost looks like he's lounging.
Yeah.
So I think that I really enjoy this Hangman a lot.
Yeah, I like that very much. I would also say that, there's that aspect of that he can let go at any point, right? Like you said, that he
Hmm.
can let himself down. I would also say that's like kind of like gives me two of sword vibes in a way where or rather no,
Yeah.
eight of sword vibes in a way where you can actually you trapped yourself in a specific situation, and then if you change the way you look at things,
Yeah.
you're actually the one who's holding the rope, and you can actually let yourself down at any point if you just change the way
Yeah.
you're looking at something. So it kind of gives me that vibes also.
It kind of does. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So death. Okay, this one was hard. I had a hard time picking a card I really liked.
So did
I went with the Muse Tarot by Chris Ann. This is published by Hay House, and this is a death card.
I.
So
Okay.
you see someone there. There's spider webs everywhere. There's the moth, and then you have these two people that look like they're coming out. They're coming out of sheets, but it looks like they're portraying the way you would come out of a cocoon after transformation, right? In terms of the moth or a butterfly. So I like
Hmm.
that sense because death for me does signify transformation in that sense, and going through change, changing things for yourself. And I definitely like that they associated the moth with death, because I do associate moths with the death card. So that was
Yeah.
a good symbolism that they included here. So, yes, very detailed aspect of transformation, in my opinion. I love this card.
I also had trouble picking a card. I was originally going to go with the Wild Unknown, but I don't know. It seems sort of like on the nose. So I went with
Yeah.
um, this card from the Wandering Spirit Tarot. This is
Oh,
actually by
yes.
Hana Luli, who is also a Lolita designer. She
Mhm.
designs Japanese fashion. Um, the reason I went with this is just because the motif of the girl and the skeleton is throughout the entire deck. So, like, if I were to tell you that and then say, like, oh, what do you think the death card is? You would think that it would be her mourning her skeleton friend, but it's actually the opposite, and I really like that.
Yeah.
Um, I just think that's a cool take on it. It doesn't really depict, there's not much traditional imagery in this deck at all. So it
Hmm.
doesn't really depict the concept of transition, but I just
I
like
like it.
the different perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, but I actually get the sense of transformation from that. Like, she's being held by her skeleton, right? The skeleton's holding her, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I still get that aspect of transformation, in my opinion, in regards to that. Transformation can be hard, so being held gives you that security, I feel like,
Mhm.
which can also come with the death card in a sense where you're going through a change, but you also want to feel secure at the same time. So
Right.
I still feel that transformation with that card. I actually think
Cool.
that card is very empowering, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
like
really
that
liked it.
we could talk through that because it gives me a new perspective of this card.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, Temperance. Okay, I love this card. This is my zodiac card.
Okay.
So yes, we have Temperance, which is associated with Sagittarius. So I went with the Everyday Witch, which again is by Deborah Blake and Elizabeth Alba, published by Llewellyn. And I love this particular card here. I love this
Hmm.
card so much. And traditional temperance is always typically it's an angel or some kind of figure that is
With like
literally
the water.
balancing the water between cups.
Yeah.
And I do like that aspect because you still get that aspect of the balance and whatnot, and trying to juggle the flow of things in that
Hmm.
sense. But I still get that with this in particular, where she's doing a yoga pose, which
Yeah,
takes balance, right? This is a
for
hard
sure.
pose to keep for a very long, long time.
Yes,
You
it
keep your
is.
balance a lot. So I definitely get that sense of balance. She's also balancing other things in her life. Not only that, we have sweets here in the back, we have some healthy eating and things like
Hmm.
that. And for myself, I feel like Moderation is key, which is another a keyword for the temperance moderation and needing to balance, between fun things and then not so fun things. So
Yes.
I definitely get that from this particular card as well. And I definitely relate to it a lot in regards to that. I also love the cat at the bottom. Like, look at the
Oh, I love
puppy.
the cats
So
throughout the
cute.
entire.
Me too, me too. It's the reason why I bought this deck in the first place. This one in the Oracle is because of the cats.
Oh yeah,
Yes. Shout
absolutely.
out to all the Sages.
So I do like that card too. It was a close runner up. I actually decided to go fairly traditional and went with
Oh yeah.
the Ethereal Visions
Yeah.
temperance. Um, so because I feel like this is traditional, but also just it just seems so calming to me. There's something about the temperance card that when I see it in readings, it's usually a sign that I either need calm or should continue remaining calm or something like that.
100%.
So seeing her just so at ease with just magically pouring water from one cup to another without it, going anywhere, just seeing very much in control is
Yeah.
really, this is probably one of the most reassuring temperance cards that I have, that
Mm.
I feel like very connected to. And
Yeah.
it's just quite a beautiful card too. It's really,
It is. I really like the foiling on this deck.
yeah.
I'm excited that the Luna Editions was picked up by US Games. So
Oh, me too. That means now I
yeah.
can finally get the Oracle deck, because I was just like, it doesn't really go with this version. So
No, it really doesn't.
I
The
could
colors
use it
don't
together,
match.
but yeah, but so now I'm very excited.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, I like that too. I definitely love the fact that the flow is like really farther apart than traditional because
Yes.
in the traditional RWS,
I
it's
think it's
literally
more
like
so like that. So it's
yeah,
almost
it's
like
like
something anyone can do, but this just seems very
yeah,
magical as well. And
yeah.
I do love that.
I do also feel like it dictates way more control than the traditional because it's farther
Uh-huh.
the flow is farther apart, so you
Yes.
definitely need to have way more, it definitely
Focus.
feels way more
Mhm.
like, calming in the sense where you get to have more control in, like, how you feel and that calming nature and things like that, so
Yeah.
yes. Okay, the devil card. Oh my god, this was so difficult for me because they're all pretty much all of them are traditional and like I could care less about the about the traditional. The devil, honestly, it's just some weird hooded like horned goat with a weird body and giving people
Yes.
pain. Like so yeah, that was yeah, not my thing. So I went with the Tarot of Curious Creatures by Chris Ann, published by Hay House,
Okay.
and it's a goat. So it's a goat
Oh,
man.
yeah.
It's a goat man.
Mhm.
But I love this particular card because the people at the bottom are actually in cages, but the cages are open. And now with the traditional devil
Oh.
card, I always
Yeah.
interpret that sense that you are like the chains or the cage or whatever is of your own making. So the
Mhm.
devil is really about um succumbing to the addictions, the material world, the different things that get you to do things that are like not the norm for you, in my opinion. So for me, I feel like these two people are in the cages, but they 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 walked into the cage. So they got
Exactly.
themselves into that
Yeah.
situation. But they can get out at any point because the cage is not locked. It's open. So they can step away from whatever situation they're in at any point in time once they finally see that the situation that they're in is unhealthy and
Yes.
what like stepping away is the right thing to do. So that's how I read the devil, and I love that it's a goat. Like this guy is so funny looking. Like
Yeah.
you get a good it's a serious card, but you get a good laugh in this at the
Yeah.
same
A
time.
lot
So
of the characters in that deck are funny looking.
they're all animal heads with like
Yeah. They're
human
like
bodies. I love it.
humanoid animals. It's very weird.
I love it though. It's so funny.
I went with the Ethereal Visions again.
Oh
This is
yes.
probably my favorite devil card, probably because of the foiling, the placement of the foiling. So if
Mm,
I'm looking at this card, I can see myself in the foiling to some degree. So
perfect.
I think that's so cool. It's like this extra layer of like,
Mhm.
all right, you see the devil is inside that little foiled circle, but really in the background you see yourself. So who is the true devil in this case?
Yeah.
And so, and then beneath him, there's the chick that's laid out here, and then this person is kind of just sitting upright, and it seems like they're wallowing or they just kind of succumbed, but they are not in any way chained or trapped where they are.
Yeah.
So I just think that it's a cool take on the devil, and it's really cool to be able to like look at it and see yourself. And it's almost saying like in other decks it's more so the devil is the thing that is causing the issues. So you know,
Mhm.
like the whatever you're addicted to or whatever it is that you feel that you can't let go of, but in reality it's really you. And I think
Yeah.
that I love that card. I love it so much.
That makes a lot of sense though when it comes to the devil, because that's also another way, a good way of looking at it, where you
Mhm,
can also be the cause of the situation. And that's why
mhm.
you need to truly look at yourself and what's going on around you to make those changes, which
Yeah.
kind of goes into like goes hand in hand with the death, making change, and also the
Yeah.
tower in terms of chaotic change or like forced
Mhm.
change. So yeah, that too. Now, speaking of the tower,
Yes,
I
speaking of
I
the
pulled my
tower.
favorite tower card. This was like the easiest thing. The
Okay. I
easiest
wonder if we picked the same one.
easiest one for me. Easiest one. I went with the Tarot of Mystical Moments.
Okay.
And this is by Katrine Wellstein again and published by US Games. And I chose this because I fell in love with this tower card when I went through the deck and unboxed it. And I just love the concept of it because
Mhm.
she is literally holding the tower together.
Oh, I like that concept. Okay.
And I just love that so much because the tower is all about chaos. It's all about forced change. In my opinion, it's about forced change. So
Yeah.
needing to make changes in order to continue on your journey. Go to that star card, which is the next card in the
Mhm.
cycle. And I love the fact that she's holding on to things even though they're still falling apart. So you see all the smoke and whatnot around her. Her hair
Mhm.
is part of the smoke as well. So her hair is
Mhm.
actually the smoke, which is really cool. And she's just trying to hang on to things in order to get to that point, to get to that hope, to get to, that star card.
Yeah.
And I love that very much because it's true, when you're going through very difficult changes in life, you're just trying to hold on to everything that's going on. You're just trying to hold on
Mhm.
and just get through it. And that's what I feel from this particular card is to hold on.
Mhm.
You'll get through it. You just need to hold on to whatever's going on and hold on to that hope to get to the other side and just make the
Yeah.
changes that you need to make even if they are difficult. So that's what I love about that particular card.
I like that we have different takes on on the tower. So,
Yeah.
I know you said with you mentioned the tower is like forced change.
Yeah.
A lot of times people associate it with like forced change that they don't want. So that's why it's always depicted as this like oogie
Yeah.
boogie card that nobody wants to get.
Yeah.
But I feel like sometimes you can force the changes yourself, even though they're sudden. You know,
Yeah.
like suddenly you're just sometimes thrown into situations and you realize like a good example is like just something simple. You start a project and you realize this is not going well and you scrap that never feels good, but you know, like to take true control over what's going on, you need to just go back to the foundations, tear it down, and then start from scratch. And I think that there's a lot of times lessons to be learned in the tower.
100%.
And what I like about this is that even though this tower is like crumbling, she kind of has a smirk on her face, like, all right, this sucks, but hey, maybe I did this myself, that kind of thing. So there's this like mystery in this card about, who really knocked down this tower and what is it that you're knocking down the tower for. And I really enjoy the concept of this card. And then if you look here, you can see that cat is like cowering. Usually the cats are very much front and center, but the cat was just like, I'm gonna sit this one out. So I just kind of find the humor and positives in this tower. I keep wanting to say tarot in the tower card.
Yeah, we have some very strange, very strange person that joined the chat.
Oh boy.
I don't know what's going on there, but okay. But yes, I do agree with you on that sense. In terms of the tower as well, and I do definitely read the tower as that as well, depending on the imagery and which deck I'm using. Definitely have that interpretation as well. So I definitely loved what you said, and yeah, I actually love that card as well. It's a great card. Okay. Anyway.
It's fine.
So,
the star.
Yes, the star. I went with the Light Seers, which is, Chris Allen again, Hay House, post by Hay House. This is the star card. I love that. And mainly I love it because she's literally holding onto the star as if it's a balloon.
Yeah. I love that.
And to me, it depicts the interpretation of holding on to hope. Whatever may be happening, to hold on to hope, and to always keep it with you.
Yeah.
In order to be able to move on to the next step or the next phase in your journey. So I definitely love that interpretation, and she's like looking up at it, which is super nice as well.
I do love that card. Makes me want to buy the deck. Are you getting down? Okay.
Do it when it's on sale. Hay House always has it on sale. I would say that would be the best time to buy the deck, because you can get it for like $8, I think, or $10.
I should do that next time. Next time I get an email about their sale, I'm gonna do it. The star card is probably my second least favorite of the leaders after the lovers card. So I had a hard time.
The lovers I can understand, but wow, the star, I'm actually shocked. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I just had a hard time picking this. So I went with the Everyday Witch because it flows after the tower. And then I also, going through my cards, I have the star from the Black Femme Tarot. And I just thought it was cool because even though the art is very different, it almost looks like not the same person, but like these two women are in the same scene, but from different perspectives.
Yeah.
So, whereas this one is, all the way in the water, you see the regular just green fields in the background. It's just more so depicting like that solitude, but still being hopeful, I guess. I don't like the star card. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But then we have this person here who's more so like, all right, they've enjoyed their solitude and now they're looking forward to whatever civilization this is in the future, and then leaving the fields of solitude behind them to go move forward. So it's kind of like, for me, like the phase between the tower into the next step kind of thing.
Yeah.
I just thought that was a kind of cool correlation between the two.
The Black Femme card is pretty traditional in terms of the way it looks.
Yeah.
You get that duality or relationship between water and earth in the star card as well, because you have 1 foot in the water and 1 foot on earth. That's supposed to be like the relationship between how water and earth interact together. I would also say that I would interpret the star card also as personal growth and personal development as well, because as you said, you are coming from the tower card, where you also learn experiences, which is what you said earlier. You learn experiences and lessons from the tower. So the star is like literally that transition from the tower into the star card of like your personal growth and how you developed as a person from whatever happened in the tower moment. So yeah, I feel that a lot. Okay, the moon. Now the moon and the hermit are my favorite cards because they're my birth cards. I had such a hard time picking a moon card. I was like, I don't know what I'm picking. I don't know what I want. I don't know what I like. Which is
Too
my
many
favorite?
options, or you
I
just
don't know.
didn't even know where to go?
Too many options. I was looking at all the moons. I was like, I don't know if I'm into this. I went with the Green Witch one,
Okay.
which is Anne Mura and Kiri Leonard, published by Llewellyn. So this is what the moon looks like. You have the moon. She's in a forest. She's in front of like a pool of water. There's a fish coming out of
Oh, yeah, I see it.
the pool as well, and she's in a forest. She's like going about like her path.
Mhm.
Now, the way I interpret, there's a lot of ways to interpret the moon card, and
Yeah.
depending on the question, I'll interpret it in different ways. But typically, I see this as also intuition,
Mhm.
as well as the high priestess, intuition, inner knowing, and things like that.
Yeah.
This is the subconscious card, in my opinion. So it's really about digging into your
Mm.
subconscious. I also consider the
Okay.
moon like the shadow work card,
Yeah.
digging into your subconscious areas to do shadow work. So I feel like, in a sense, this could depict that, where you see the moon being reflected in the pool of water. And a lot of the
Mhm.
time, when it comes to water and the moon, you reflect what you see into the water. So if you're looking into the water, it's like looking into a mirror
Mm.
pretty much, and
Yeah.
what you see is being reflected back to you. And to me, when you do that, it's because you're looking into your subconscious.
Yeah.
Your conscious is looking into your subconscious, and there's things that you need to dig deeper on in that regard. And you need to
Mhm.
trust your intuition on that and actually go into the journey of digging into what you're seeing.
Okay.
So that's what I'm getting from this particular
Yeah.
card. The way I interpret generally is really about intuition and trusting your inner knowing and what you know to believe within yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I'm getting from this particular card. But this one was hard. This one was
It
hard.
This one was actually really easy for me. I, so I I do associate the moon with a lot of intuition and stuff like that, which,
Yeah.
because you see that in the High Priestess, but with the moon
Yeah.
card, it's more so like you're not quite in tune with your intuition yet, and therefore you're
Mm.
faced with a lot of shadows and illusions. So I actually went with the moon from the Game of Thrones tarot. If you're
Oh.
familiar with either the book or the show, regardless, if you
Yeah, the
remember the
show.
moon door in the Vale,
Oh, yes.
that's what this is. This is not an actual moon. You're looking at just open sky in this hole. So it's like, when
That's
I first looked at
brilliant.
this card, I thought it was like through a door you can, or like, what are those things on windows, those panel things, whatever. I thought
Oh,
this was looking through a window at the moon.
shutters.
Shutters, yes, that's what I thought. This was like a fancy thing, and then I realized this is the moon door. So you're looking at Earth, and it was an illusion to begin with. So this entire card is an illusion, and I just love that because I see, like, the moon is, especially coming from the star, you have all of these hopes and aspirations and dreams, but
Mhm.
you're not tapped into your intuition enough, and it's an easy way to get distracted by like falsehoods.
Oh,
So
yeah,
you
true.
see things or you create things from your mind built off of this hope, but it's not actually the reality of what's going on yet.
Yeah, that's true.
um so I think that this is probably one of my favorite moon cards because of that. I don't connect so much with the traditional imagery, but
Mm.
I do like the moon card a lot.
I like that also, just for the fact that it's a door.
Yeah.
And when you open a door, you're opening a door to your subconscious also. So,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
you're conscious, and you're just opening a door to the subconscious, especially with the shadows and stuff. That usually comes from your subconscious area. So,
Yep.
yeah, I like that as well. I definitely love that.
Yay.
Okay, the sun. We're almost done. Two more cards
Yeah,
left.
only 3 more.
Three now, yeah, but
Yes.
two after that. So I chose the Everyday Witch Sun card.
Mm.
Um, and that's mainly because you have the energy of the maiden, the mother, and the crone in this card.
Yeah.
And I particularly love that, mainly because the sun to me is about not only happiness, but I feel like it's also about reaching that growth or status that you were supposed to reach. It's like
Yeah.
a victory in a sense. And for me, where the major arcana is literally a cycle, right? So you're going
Hmm.
from the beginning of your cycle to towards the end of your cycle. And I feel like with the sun, this shows your cycle very
Yeah.
deeply in terms of the maiden, the mother, and the crone, where you've come from, where you've been, and where you are headed in a sense, which is the crone
Hmm.
energy, gaining wisdom and things like that. So I love that. Also, there's 3 different black cats in this card.
I know. I did like the black cats in that card. I debated a long time. So the sun is probably the next of the majors that I don't really care one way or another for. Probably more indifference than like dislike. So I had a hard time with this. I was originally going to go with the Everyday Witch, but I don't. I have this aversion to like Wiccan stuff, so I didn't really enjoy the concept of the Maiden, Mother, and Crone. But I do enjoy the concept in that card of like the joy and the happiness you get with the sun. So of course I went the exact opposite route and chose the most melancholy sun I have in my repertoire, which is from the Wandering Spirit Tarot by Honolulu. So in this one, it's very much a melancholy card. You know, you do get this concept of the sun in the background, but that's about it. And otherwise, it's like uh it's kind of like this concept of like a, even though she seems fairly melancholy, it's like this soft joy, you know? And it's, so when I see this card, it makes me think of, you know, finding joy in things that maybe you didn't think you could find joy in. So this is more of I use this deck a lot as like a shadow work deck. So that's why I kind of have that concept of more so, you know, you don't always have to show joy and happiness in the way that society wants you to.
Yeah.
It may not look like what another person's joy and happiness looks like. So it's kind of like a reminder of, you present joy and happiness in the way that you are capable of in that moment, or the way that you do, and don't worry about how others do it. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of why I went with this card.
I actually really love that, mainly because for me, she's now holding her skeleton.
Yes.
So during the death card, the skeleton was holding her, but now
Hmm.
she's holding the skeleton. So I feel
Yeah.
like in this card, I feel like I don't know what the other cards look like, but transitioning from the moon, and in the sense of what we just talked about in terms of
Hmm.
subconscious and then, shadow work and things like that, I feel like the sun card there shows acceptance. So
Yeah.
shows acceptance of your inner self, and that's what brings you happiness, because you've accepted yourself for who you
Hmm.
are and everything that you've come from or come
Yeah,
with,
I
or
love that too. Look at you,
yeah.
like, showing me more about my own decks.
I really like that deck. Oh my god, it's so
Yeah.
nice. It's too bad it's
I
too
I got it to support because she's awesome, and
yeah.
when I got it, I was like, "Wow, this is a very good shadow work deck," just, like, going through it. Very not traditional, but it's
Yeah, but I like that though.
yeah. I think, and which is really cool for shadow work, I think, you know, being able to
Definitely.
look past the things that are obvious is really how
100%. That's
I
the
view
point
it.
of shadow work. So yes.
Exactly,
Yes,
exactly.
100%. Yeah, I really love that. That's so great. Oh my god, anyway. Okay, judgment. Okay, judgment. I didn't know what to go with because so many of them are like a lot of my cards are very traditional. You have
Yeah.
the angel, the trumpet, and then people lifting
Yep.
up, and I'm just like, okay, I don't want this. But anyway, so I went with the Field Tarot. This is by Hannah Elizabeth Fofana, and it's published by U.S. Games.
Mm.
And this is what I went with. It's a swan, and it's a swan
Oh.
looking at their reflection.
Oh, I
And
see now. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're looking at their
Yeah.
reflection. Now, if you know the story of the ugly duckling, then you'd
Mhm.
know that swans are not very nice looking when they're babies, and then they grow up to be beautiful looking creatures afterwards. And I find with the way the cycle goes with RWS, like the major arcana, I find the judgment card to be the card of acceptance and needing to accept what has been,
Mhm.
and to be able to come to that completion card, which is the world, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like in this sense, you're looking at yourself in the sense of accepting who you are, where you have been, what has come, in order for you to complete your cycle, whatever cycle that may be. And I really love the depiction in this sense with the swan looking
I
at themselves.
really like that. And you saying that, I had to pull out another card for judgment actually. Because I never really thought of it that way, but it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So just following up with what you said, if you
Mhm.
remember, I chose the wild unknown for the fool, and this is
Yeah.
the wild unknown for judgment.
Yeah.
And this is exactly like what you were saying. In the beginning, the fool is that little ugly bird that is just trying to figure out how to leave the nest and
Yeah.
take its first flight. And then here, judgment, you've come almost to the point of the end where you can finally soar and fly. And I actually really like this card. I thought about choosing it, but I was like, I've already chosen way too many duplicates. So, but
Yeah.
I
I
like this
agree.
concept too. With you see all of these dark birds in the background and the
Hmm.
other bird, flying up. It's like kind of leaving those shadows behind, finding your new self, and
Yeah.
finding that that new path that you want to, or that path that you feel like you're meant for, and head
Yes.
towards it, fly
Exactly.
towards it. And that's kind of why the original card I chose was the judgment card from Prisma Visions by
Mm.
James R. Eads.
Yeah.
I really like this one because this is the concept, like you were mentioning about how doors are like the subconscious. So
Yeah.
I see like this deck is really good. It can balance between being a really great shadow work deck or just a great all around deck.
Hmm.
And it's like opening up the door that just lights the path that is meaningful to you.
Yeah.
So
100%.
it's like opening up a door to a new world. And I like that there are no people in this. There's no actual like physical subjects other than the
Hmm.
door and then the lights.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of cool too because you see that spiral, so it's almost like inviting you in and pulling you into it, kind of like a black hole, but lit
Yeah.
up.
In that sense, you can think of that expression where one door closes, another door opens.
Yeah.
And to me, that's also another depiction of the judgment where, yes, things have happened and you've closed doors or whatnot, but there's always another door that's going to open where
Hmm.
it'll lead you to the path that you're on currently, and you just need to accept that this is where you're meant to be going in order to get that completed aspect with the world. I went with the traditional world, but I went with not like RWS card.
Oh,
I went with the Luna Soul, but it's still traditional. I just went with the
yeah.
Luna Soul Tarot.
Yeah.
This is by Darren. Let me get names of people so I say the right
So
thing.
good with names.
Darren Schill and Mike McDaglia, they are actually the founders or the co-founders of Liminal 11, and this is the deck that they put out, that they published through their publishing company.
Hmm.
So this is the card. Very traditional. You have the
Yeah.
the animals on each side. You have the sun and moon, so you still have that duality. You have the person in the middle of the wreath. So yeah, you get that aspect in that. Very traditional. This to me is completion, obviously with the circles,
Yeah.
completion. This is completing a cycle. I also see it as not only completing a cycle, but the start of a new cycle. So you're going back to the Fool is really what the world to me signifies, that you've completed one cycle with the Fool, you've learned a lot, you've gained knowledge, you've gained wisdom, you've gained things about yourself that you probably didn't know, you trust yourself more, your intuition, you're happy and all that good stuff. And now you're about to begin again on a new path and start all over again. So that to me, that's what the world card is all about.
I like that. I went with again, non-traditional with my Wild Unknown. I just like this one because I like the colors, the way that she did the colors, and then the fact that, so in the traditional world, even though you have the person inside the wreath, a lot of stuff is happening outside of it.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is saying, like, you've taken all of this stuff in, there are these flowers here, you've learned to grow this thing. And so from the outside, this perspective of people looking at you from the outside, they see how much you've changed and they see these diversity of colors and stuff like that. But inside, you've also grown. So I like that it doesn't have so much going on outside, and it focuses a lot on how you have changed from the inside out. And yeah, I mean, it doesn't have a lot of the traditional imagery, but I think it's a real cool card.
The traditional imagery, just to touch upon that, is actually supposed to signify the elements. So the things that go on around the wreath with the person that's in the wreath is supposed to signify that aspect of the elementals in the world card. There's also the aspect of duality. There's the aspect of as above, so below, with the positioning of the arms of the person in the wreath and all that. So yeah, that's really why there's that traditional imagery. But I completely understand. I love the Wild Unknown deck. That's one of my favorites. I know that it's super popular. It
is,
as you say, overused and all that stuff. I still love it. I don't care. I love it.
Oh yeah, totally. I can openly admit when I'm in love with something that's still overrated. So
yeah, me too. I don't care. It was my first deck. I absolutely love her work.
That I definitely do want to get her other one. I'm looking on the back. I'm pointing like we're in the same room, but yes, I think I will definitely get that card.
I actually really love this deck very much. I wasn't sure about it because I don't really know much about alchemy, but using it has opened my eyes to so many different things because of her guidebooks. So in depth. But I love all her decks. Archetypes is another one that I really love. I just really want all of them to come out in minis now that she's putting some of them out in minis. I just want minis.
You want minis of everything now?
Yes.
That's so funny.
I would literally die if she literally put out the archetypes in a mini, like a mini round format. I'd be like, yes, please.
That would be so tiny and cute. I would love that.
That would be so fun. So fun. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So those were all
everything.
All the cards.
That was a lot.
That was a lot, yeah.
I can't wait for the next one, though. We have so many ideas, but also anybody who's listening, if you enjoyed this, let us know what ideas. If you come across a tarot tag that, we haven't done yet, or a discussion you want us to discuss, comment below, let us know, and we'll add it to the ever-growing list of ideas we have.
Yes. For sure. That would be so fun, actually. Give us ideas of what you want to see, what do you want us to talk about in terms of like tarot or whatever it may be. It would be fun. Also, don't forget to subscribe to either of our channels. So if you're coming from Cosmic's channel, don't forget to subscribe to me. And if you're coming from my channel, don't forget to subscribe to Cosmic. It would be great. That way we could both grow our channels. So, yes.
Thank you guys for listening, and I guess we will catch you in the next discussion. Have a great weekend, and thanks so much for joining me, Sil.
Bye, everyone. Fun. Yeah, it was super fun. Bye.